Why did the Saints win this one?
Well, they won this one because Drew Brees is simply phenomenal. He's fantastic. When you look at the fact that in the 3 victories this year, he's completed over 70% of his passes. He's thrown for more than 326 yards on average. Postseason records all over the place in terms of that average. I think it's around about 326. This man is sensational. We talk so much about that bad man that is Aaron Rodgers, and rightfully so, because he is a bad man. We think about Tom Brady, the 5-time champion that he is. But Drew Brees is on another level. It's just that simple. Michael Thomas is no joke. Got the Twitter name Can't Guard Mike. We understand why. He has a field day against the Carolina Panthers. At least he did this year. And yesterday was no exception because Carolina shut down their running game in New Orleans, and it didn't matter because Brees was doing his thing. Ted Ginn Jr., Michael Thomas, the list goes on and on. But it comes down to the greatness of Drew Brees. He's simply sensational. He knows how to get it done in the postseason. He picks you apart any which way that he has to. And this is a guy that can't, I mean, you talk about a snail with arthritis. The snails can't get arthritis. But that's how slow Drew Brees would look if he was trying to scramble out of the pocket and literally make yardage with his legs. But this dude is so accurate. He's so precise. He's so spectacular. We are at a point in NFL history when we think about the great quarterbacks that exist within the National Football League, this man's name needs to be mentioned amongst the all-time greats. He shows up in the postseason, not just the regular season. He religiously throws for 4,500 plus yards, and when the playoffs arrive and big moments arrive, he doesn't disappear and he doesn't wilt beneath the pressure. There's a lot of things that go into yesterday's victory, but the one that jumped out of my mind is the greatness of Drew Brees. It's just that simple.
Drew Brees is great, no question about it. Future Hall of Famer, had a great game. The running game wasn't working, and he was slinging it, and that was working. By the way, Cam Newton had an excellent game, and it should have been a great game. And the reason Drew Brees was able to win is because Cam Newton's receivers couldn't hold on to the football, period. So when you look at, like, where do you assign credit, where do you assign blame? You've given Drew Brees the credit. Let me assign some blame. It's the new Giants GM, David Gettleman, Stephen A. That's the reason the Saints won. And it's not that Gettleman did a bad job. He did a good job. The team made the playoffs. That's a good job from your GM if your team makes the playoffs. And not long ago, they were in the Super Bowl. And that year, or the previous year, obviously, he'd done a great job. But they didn't advance in the playoffs, and it wasn't because of Cam Newton, because Cam Newton played really, really well. They didn't advance in the playoffs because he doesn't have a running game. Cam Newton is still the running game. He went out and drafted a running back in name, but McCaffrey's really a third down back. He's not a running back that you can design, at least so far in his pro career, your running game around. In fact, that was the question about McCaffrey coming out of college. Is he the kind of reliable every down back you can just hand the ball and there's your running game? So far, the answer is no. At least they're not using him that way, like between the tackles type guy. They're lining him up all over the place, and he's tremendous. Look, he broke that play we just showed you and took it to the house, and he's a tremendous third down kind of back. But they still don't have a running game. Their receivers are, as a receiving core, maybe they're not as bad as they looked yesterday. I mean, even Greg Olsen dropped an important pass, but that's not a really star-studded receiving core. It's okay. It's sometimes competent, and they really haven't given Cam enough on offense. So you say, well, but normally they have a defense, and after all, they did make the playoffs. As I said, good job by Gettleman, but we're talking about advancing in the playoffs, which you need to do in order to, why did the Saints win? Panthers weren't good enough, almost good enough. Again, if the receivers don't drop those passes, maybe they do advance, but not quite good enough because the same stuff that has plagued them recently persists. Yep. Not quarterback play, running game, and mediocre receiving core.